This lady was doused with petrol and then set on fire by her own partner. Oh, hi there, stranger. As part of my Walk for Refuge month, today I'm going to be telling you about the case of Ellen Marshall. Viewer discretion, as always, is advised. Ellen Marshall was born in the early 1980s and was originally from Nottingham. Not much is known about Ellen's early life, but she grew into a caring, outgoing woman with a strong sense of humour. She had 4 children and was described as a deeply devoted mother. She unfortunately experienced some struggles in her life and developed an unhealthy relationship with booze, at one point even describing herself as a recovering alcoholic. Ellen relocated to Skegness around 2014 or 15 and moved around for a while in different accommodations. By 2021, when she was 41 years old, she was in a relationship with Lee Pateman, and together they lived in an HMO. Sadly, following the pattern we've seen in previous cases, Lee became volatile and controlling. Ellen had told friends that Lee had become aggressive, that he had threatened her, and that she was afraid of him. Lee had threatened to set her on fire and kept petrol at the house. He had a petrol can with petrol in it and he kept it in the shed, but then he moved it into the accommodation in the communal area. He was a terrifying man to Ellen, and by April 2021, she was living completely on edge and totally in fear. The pair had been arguing a lot in the days leading up to the event in question, which happened on the 22nd of April 2021. After another argument between the pair, Ellen sat on a chair and Lee approached her with his open petrol can and poured some over her head. He then set her alight. He then emptied 2 fruit bowls of water over Ellen's head before leaving the property on his bicycle. Another occupant of the house called the emergency services, thank goodness. When the fire crew arrived, they found Ellen on the floor, and that's when they properly extinguished the fire. Ellen was so badly burned by the time that they arrived that she practically didn't have any hair left on her head, and they couldn't make out any of her facial features. At that point, Ellen had told them that she did it to herself, probably trying to protect Lee out of fear. Thankfully, they didn't take that at face value and police went looking for Lee. When police went to arrest him later that night, he was asleep in bed at his mother's house. He had set his partner on fire and then went to bed. As you can see by the photo, he still had soot on him and his wrists were burned. He told police that he had poured the petrol on her and then he'd been messing about with his lighter to try and scare her, and then she had accidentally gone up in flames. Ellen, of course, was rushed to the hospital and they did everything that they could for her, and miraculously, Ellen survived the attack. She was in extreme pain. Of course, she had permanent facial disfigurement. She had lost some of her fingers and much of her body was severely scarred. She had suffered 80% full thickness burns to her torso, front, back, face, and limbs. She had very limited movement, was not able to wash or feed herself, and was prone to infection. In March 2022, Lee Pateman was sentenced to 17 years and 10 months for grievous bodily harm with intent. After the attack, Ellen stayed in hospital until early 2022 when she was transferred to a care unit. And she was there for around 6 months before she had to be readmitted to hospital. Ellen had contracted pneumonia as a result of the burns and was sadly unable to overcome it. Ellen Marshall passed away on the 11th of March 2023 as a result of her injuries, less than 2 years after the attack. Pateman was charged with her murder and in December 2024 was sentenced to life with a minimum term of 27 years. That is not on top of the GBH sentence, and so any time served for that will be credited to his 27-year minimum. Lee Pateman was 45 years old at the time of his sentencing. And what an evil man he must be. It wasn't enough for him that he was abusing and terrorizing Ellen and that she was very frightened of him. He had to damage her in one of the worst ways imaginable, destroying her face, her body, and ultimately her life. I'm not going to lie, strangers, I was disappointed with that sentence. What do you think? Does it fit the crime? Rest in peace to Ellen Marshall. Without Lee Pateman, I'm sure she would have had a lot of life left to live. Cases like Ellen's are the reason that I am walking 62 miles this month for the charity Refuge, which is the UK's leading charity in helping women and children escape domestic abuse. It's a fantastic cause, so if you can support, then the link to my fundraiser is in my bio. If not, then maybe like, share and do all the stuff with this video and help me raise awareness. And to you strangers, as always, if you've stayed with me up until now, then thank you for watching. Refuge, refuge.